No mai hara mai, e whānau ngā hapu e te ui ki tēnei hui. E tuatahi I karakia tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki tonga, kia makina ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tiu, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. Thank you for joining today. I have Nish from EPIT here with me, but you can't see him, and two very special guests with me today. First up, ko wai au, ko poke hapopo te maunga, ko wai moko te awa, ko ngāti kanohi tōku iwi, no whangara mai tāwhiti ahau, engari e noho ana au ki Onehonga. E kai tātare rawa kai rangahau ki EPIT, ko Lynette Reid tōku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā koutou katoa. Welcome again, everyone. Just a couple of housekeeping stuff to get us started this afternoon. We are going to hear from our two guests in a minute. And what we'd like you to do, if you have any questions that you want to pose, which you'll have time to, which I'll have time to read out towards the end of the time. We'll have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions and answers. But if you have questions, please post them in the chat, and I will do my best to be able to read them out to our guests. First of all, let me introduce you to our guests, and I'm going to start where we always start, with women. Hilary Tomkins. Hilary's career spans education, corporate HR, and career development. She began in primary school teaching before transitioning into HR, outplacement, and career advisory roles while managing family responsibilities. Her international experience enhanced her transition coaching. Hilary has held senior people and culture roles and contributed to Springboard Trust. With a Master of Education focused on career development, her research emphasised industry engagement and shaping future career paths. Hilary has served in leadership roles within CDANS and now runs Career Inspiration, offering coaching, strategic planning, and career development. She currently co-leads as a career subject matter expert with our next guest, Chris Sullivan. Chris Sullivan is co-leading the Careers Leadership Development Program with Hilary for Te Uru Amokura Springboard Trust, where he also leads business development and special projects. Chris designs and delivers programs that help school principals turn insight into concrete action for better learner outcomes. Drawing on 2 decades of experience in education strategy, program design, and government liaison, Chris is also a trustee of Ako Matatupu Teach First New Zealand, the New Zealand Youth Mentoring Network, the Stonefields Collaborative. He is also the founder of ThoughtSeed, a consulting practice that blends design, learning design, operational planning, and systems thinking to drive enduring change across sectors. Known for his relaxed, story-driven style, Chris challenges leaders to marry data-based insight with decisive execution, because, as he puts it, progress only happens when good ideas get boots on. And on that note, no mai hara mai, Chris, we look forward to listening to what yourself and Hilary have to say over the next 10, 15 minutes.
Brilliant.
Chris.
Kia ora, thank you, Lynette, and kia ora koutou, ngā mihi nui, thanks for the intro. I'm going to move relatively fast to describe 3 things: who we are and what we do, this program, and the third thing is some of the insights and lessons we've learned along the way through the words of the people that we've worked with. So I'll share up my slide and kick in. So just a little bit of context first. Springboard Trust, we are about 18 years old, so we're an old teenager. And the work we do is to improve strategic leadership capability and capacity in New Zealand. The reason we do that is that we want to see all young people learn and thrive. And Te Uru Amokura, the bird that you can see on your screen, it is in our name, Springboard Trust Te Uru Amokura. It's a bird which has a feather which denotes leadership. It's a high-flying bird which denotes that we look at leadership from a high level up. And te uru means to enter, and it also is the interconnected roots of a kahikatea plant. And so what we try to do is we bring people together to talk about leadership in a way that acknowledges that everybody comes from different places and different directions. This project, though, that we want to talk about today, I'll start with a brief of stories, and that's this, and I don't know if it'll resonate with you, but I'll test it. Our thesis is that for lots of kids and lots of schools, and for far too long, we've asked them to sing the same song in the same way, often at the same time, and take flight to a common destination. And for many, we privileged universities. In talking with Lynette and the EPIT team and others, though, I'd like to argue something quite different, and that is that what we're trying to do, I think, in education generally is to help young people find their own voice, perhaps to sing their own song, in their own way, in their own time. And ultimately, in part, careers is about letting young people take wings and to fly wherever it is that makes sense to them. And if that's the case, it could be university, but it could be a whole lot of other things. And it's a much more holistic sense of what it means to thrive and progress in a changing world. So that's what this project's about. And so what I want to do then is just talk to that briefly in the context of strategy in the next 6 or 7 minutes. So strategy, what do we mean by it? Well, we mean that you can answer 7 questions in your context or your school. You could describe at the top in the next 2 to 3 years, where do you want your careers program and programs to take you, and what success will look like. The second tier, what the 2 or 3 goals you're working on would be and how you would measure progress towards them. At the third level, if I said, well, what projects or initiatives will help you to achieve those goals, you'd be able to describe them in the ways that they do and how, as a group of projects, they'll contribute towards you achieving that goal. And at the bottom of the pyramid, the fourth question we typically ask is, so what does that look like? What are the boots on the ground? Who is doing what, where, when, and how? So that's how we see strategy. Another way you could phrase it, I guess, is do you know how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to go in the most effective and efficient way possible? That's basically how we see strategy. On the outside is 3 things that enable that strategy. How do you measure progress? How do you engage your stakeholders, whether they be internal or external? And what's your approach to change? That is what we have done over the last couple of months with a group of 7 secondary schools in Auckland and 6 secondary schools in Christchurch to ask them in the context of careers, can you answer those questions? So the program is just that, develop leadership capability. I won't read it all out, but a mixture of workshop, coaching, resources. We have about 17,000 learners in those 13 schools, and we have 13 volunteers from outside of the education sector working one-to-one who are gifting their time. And if we put a value, we're not sure what it would be, but we do know that it's significant and it makes a big difference. I'm moving quick, but I want to get to what the 5 big things we've heard so far, and then I'm going to get a couple of the voices of principals and volunteers to speak and career staff to speak. I don't know if this will resonate with you, but here are our top couple of headlines. Number 1 is, in careers, we need a purpose to anchor the work, and the work that Lynette did in EPIT with the Empowering Our Youth spoke to the importance of having purpose and having vision. The second big thing is we've found that we need to measure our impact and not assume it to be the case. So we, through this program, have asked people, how do you know you're making a difference, and could you prove it? That's been a fascinating exercise to delve into. The third is one which the EPIT research picked up, and that is the critical importance of active engagement in principals and senior managers in engaging and supporting the school's career strategy. So a key point of this project has been The careers staff have come, but they've come alongside of their assistant or deputy principals and their principal, who's committed to all of those workshops. We asked the principals to come to some, they came to all. We're delighted with that. And also another thing around distribution, and as we move into the fourth, is that it's important that careers is for all students, not some students, and involves the whole school, not some of the school. And for that to happen, and that includes engaging whānau, we need to develop systems so we can move from being ad hoc to strategic and intentional. Again, that's supported by research. The fifth point is how we have found that collaboration across sectors fuels confidence. So with the 13 schools involved, we've had 13 volunteers working alongside them from 13 different sectors and industries. And there's been a cross-pollination of ideas and insights with everybody being on an equal tier as contributors to the conversation. So the progress thus far, appreciate moving quickly, is that we're on track to finish the Auckland cohort shortly and evaluate it, and we're just beginning the Christchurch one. And at the end, we'll evaluate the difference it's made. The voice of participants, I'm going to share just a couple of participant voices, and so I hope my technology works. This is Billy Merchant from Pakuranga. He's going to talk for 30 seconds on the difference it's made to him.
New principal, so I'm principal for less than a year. However, I've been in senior leadership for 15 years. But I found the input of this course just been brilliant. It really has. It's really helped me. We talk about the career side first. It's always been something within the school that's been there. But what I think I've grown a greater appreciation, because I've been part of this journey, of the importance and the role that it can play for our young people. And for us now playing out when we go back, it's going to be a far more strategic kind of plan in place, a far more explicit, and being able to see the links as well across the entire school. I'm really excited about to see how that pans out. It's been great leadership development from my head of careers. It's also had my deputy principal here as well. Yeah, between the two of them, there's a real energy there, which I'm really excited about going back into school. New principal.
So that's one of 6 principals. Then we asked Ryan, who's at Manurewa College, how the experience had been for him, and how he envisaged that it would play out in terms of the difference it would make to his learners and to his school.
Yes, it's going to make a difference to me, because I know it's going to make a difference to our school. By being able to sit around the table, as we said with our SLTs, we can actually put goals and initiatives in place that we've wanted to for a while, and we've had these ideas. But the fact that they're actually behind this, they help drive it forward to make the change and get workers thinking about their pathways from an early stage. One last question. Yes.
I'm conscious of time, so I'll also show you just one example of a volunteer who contributed and what he picked up along the way. This chap has worked for 10 years with Springboard Trust, and so he was able to incorporate that into his thinking as well.
Progress today.
I think the learning and the great opportunity is bringing people together from different schools, different levels within the schools, to have conversations and create alignment, but also understanding that each school might be different, but it's dealing with the same issues and same obstacles, and being able to share that, find different opportunities for innovation and creativity, being fantastic.
And the learning that you've seen, the school you've worked with, just paint a picture of your journey as a volunteer and the journey of the school so far.
I think what the school's gone through is realising that some of the good stuff that they're already doing, it is working, they've got a good benchmark, but it seems to be ad hoc. It's not strategic and it's not aligned. It's just people putting a lot of effort and goodwill. But now what they're realising is it needs to be more systematic, more sustained. And I think there's this realization is achieved, they need to do it together, rather than just putting all the effort onto one person who happens to have a title called careers.
And if you were talking to other volunteers or school in progress today?
So I'll pause there because I do want to allow time for questions, which I think is pretty critical. But before I do, I'd just like to give the last headline, and that is to thank you who are on the call, because we heard through the program 4 C's. The first is that we heard is that there is an absolute commitment to the young people that you work with if you're in a school, and it was just so powerful to see that commitment. Every school we've worked in, every conversation we've had, the commitment of career staff to making a difference to learners. So that's the first C. So thank you from Springboard, and thank you from Hilary and I for the work you do every day. The second C that we saw is that capacity is a challenge across the sector, that there's so much to do, and in many schools having the capacity to take on that work is a challenge. And so it was our privilege to work with schools with those constraints in mind to say, well, with that limited capacity, but abundance of commitment, what can we do? And so the third C that we worked on is, well, how do we get clarity in the context of strategy to, if we can't do everything, to choose what we do and then do that well? And I guess for some of you on the call, that might be a challenge you have is to get clarity on what you choose to prioritise. And for us at Springboard, we say that strategy is as much about what you choose not to do as what you choose to do. And that's a really hard choice. And the fourth one that came home to us, the fourth C, was the notion of context. Every school, every kura is different. Every young person is different. And so whatever we do is totally nested in the context in which you work and the difference that you try to make. So we thought we would just give that 12-minute overview of what we do. We know that we're on a tight finish to about 1:30, but Hilary, I do invite you to link to us or connect with us outside of this workshop if you want to know more. But I will leave it there and just say thanks to EPIT and thanks to the funders who have enabled this to be possible, to work with you in your context, to bring greater clarity, to work within the capacity you have in search of making a difference to the young people in Ākonga you serve. Kia ora koutou, that's us, and without further ado, Hilary is going to lead the back half of the session and answer any questions you may have, and that could include going back to a couple of clips that I jumped over if that's useful. Kia ora, Lynette.
Kia ora, thank you, Chris. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much for providing a short synopsis of the whole program. I've had the opportunity to listen to the career strategy plans from the Auckland cohort, and I was just blown away by the depth, the detail, the emotional experiences in the room as well as they were presenting. And I wonder if I could just pass to you both an open-ended question. What surprised you in the program so far? What surprises have come your way from the Auckland cohort or the Christchurch cohort? Could you both speak to perhaps some surprises you've found or you've discovered?
Hilary, I've been talking. Do you want to kick off?
Oh dear. There was probably more for me affirmation of knowledge, research, experience rather than surprises. Affirmations that were fantastic to see the principals saying things like, Flip, I didn't actually really know what was going on in that space, and it's been really enlightening for me to be here and have this time with my careers person. We all know that is what happens typically in secondary schools. So, hearing that verbalized and hearing that vulnerability of the principals almost opening themselves up to say, I've not given it the attention or time that perhaps it's worthy of. So that was maybe a surprise to see their vulnerability and their openness, because we often in the career space are busy working and haven't had the chance to think strategically in terms of how it works with the school's strategic work, or if we have, we've done it by ourselves and not in conjunction with. So that was probably the most beautiful experience, I suppose, of hearing these principals say some of those really deep things of, wow, this is actually bigger and more important than I realized, and I haven't given as much time to this and prioritizing this as I probably need to. Chris?
Two things. The first surprise was how quickly every school leaned into it, just echoing what Hilary said, and the vulnerability to share both challenges and weaknesses. I always find if someone tells me about how good they are, I sort of switch off, but when someone says I've got a challenge it's worth solving, I lean in, and the whole group leant in. So if there's any of you on that, thank you. The second one that surprised me is how quickly we got onto measurement and how it's often difficult to measure the soft things. And so we had interesting conversations about how do we measure progress, and specifically changes in values, attitudes, beliefs, and mindsets. We leaned into the conversation around improving outcomes for Māori learners, as an example. And the conversation evolved to, if we really want to make transformational change, then it's going to involve transforming mindsets and beliefs, sometimes within the staff room and within the school community, about the importance of careers and how it can make that difference.
Thank you. Very full responses. I've got a question in the chat. If we could only implement 3 strategic initiatives to radically improve our students' career and transitions outcomes, what would they be? What activities would we need to stop doing to ensure these 3 things are done with excellence? If we could only implement 3 strategic initiatives to radically improve our students' career and transition outcomes, what would they be? And what current activities do we need to stop to ensure those 3 things are done with excellence? Great question. Thank you, Russell.
Yeah, awesome question, whoever it was. I'll kick off. So number one, though, is we are going to do a thematic analysis and answer that question in detail and tell you what these 13 schools have chosen to prioritise and see if there's coherence across them. However, notwithstanding, one would I'd say is that careers is a whole of school piece of work. It's not year 12, 13. So create projects and goals where every learner across your secondary school gets access to quality careers, and we could have a discussion another day about what that looks like. Number 2 is, with that in mind, that how are you going to get all staff in the school, wherever they sit in the staff room, to be part of that careers program that the students all receive? And third, I'd be encouraged to see people look at their data or identify the groups of students who aren't achieving at the same level as other groups of students, ask why, find out why, and then design specific programs to bridge that gap. And often, but not always, that's for Māori and learners. And so I'd encourage initiatives that hone in on that.
Just stop doing, Chris.
What
do we need to stop doing to ensure these 3 things are done with excellence?
Hilary, do you want to take that one? I've got some thoughts, but I'm just conscious I've been doing most of the talking.
Sure. That is a really hard one, because we all know that what we engage our time in, we believe it to be really powerful. I would say one thing that has come through both in research and in the conversations is that we meet often as careers people with just the person, but no decisions are made in an isolated situation. It is always contextual of whānau. And I think one of the things we could stop doing is actually just seeing students by themselves and bringing that whānau lens in a much greater way than has been the typical situation. Yes, the areas that Chris has said would have been on what some of the things are. Another really big area is that engagement with industry and business, so that family and students and teachers, the whole school understands, and the community understands what's out there and how you get into those things and what's actually happening in that space from a person who's in that space. So that really strong connection with industry and business, really helping the program to be valid and up to date, and you can see future trends and you can hear from people, and you can also build connections and strengthen your program, strengthen the students' experience of what workplaces are, understand more. So that's another adding in. So that's now made 4 priority areas. Sorry, Russell, to your question, you've only asked for 3. But I think the concept of engaging with industry and sectors is hugely important.
Great, thank you. Thank you both. I've got one other question, and it might be our final question, but we might be able to squeeze one more in. How will this program be socialised more broadly to encourage other SLT around the motu to engage?
So this project is to test the concept, and so beyond the pilot, I'm not sure. We hope there'll be opportunities to continue it to other schools, potentially in other SLTs. Within SLTs, I think the question was, by having the principals attend every workshop alongside their career staff, that enabled the conversation to begin around that socialisation. What most schools ended up doing was developing a goal and projects around developing a careers culture within the school. And to develop that culture, most but not all of the schools developed a careers team, and that careers team extended beyond the people with the nameplate to do so. One school, as an example, within each faculty in the school identified a careers education champion. So whilst the workload wasn't high, they were going to be actively supporting the careers conversation within their schools. The only other thing I'd add in that, Lynette, is the phasing and the cadence of the change. We talked about discover, design, deliver, and debrief. Some of the schools are working through a discovery phase. They're literally discovering what needs to be done before they move into a phase of design to answer the question that they discovered. And I suggest that in a lot of schools, just saying, let's work out what we want to do, how we're going to do it, and what we're going to prioritise as the first step, and taking the time to do that discovery well isn't a bad place to start.
Thank you. Thank you both. We're coming down now to the last couple of minutes. I wonder if I could leave you both with the last word before I close our session for today. A takeaway, Chris, a takeaway for everyone, and Hilary, to everyone who is with us today from the program, what would that be?
Hilary, do you want to go first?
I think building on some of the things that we've already mentioned, the commitment, the absolute, everyone who works in that career space, and many of you are in that space, you are really passionate, and there's so much coming at you, and there's so many things that we want to be across, and we want to be across as well as we can. And so sharing that and utilising one another's strengths, and we encourage the cohort to stay connected and to work together on some of those elements where they had similarities in what they wanted to develop. So rather than be solo flying all the time, as often we feel we are in schools, to work together with other career professionals and discuss how might we measure it, where might we start, what might a pilot look like, how will we discover, what should we design, and actually work collegially across schools to build that professional strength and understanding, and not be reinventing the wheel, which sometimes can be very time consuming.
And my closing comment twofold. One is that the work starts where the plan begins. So we've encouraged our schools to implement their plans with fidelity, and to know that what they do is making a difference. And so we and our volunteers have said that we stand ready to help if we're able to do that, and the implementation and the evaluation of that implementation. So that's number one. Because where you have insight but not action, it's a missed opportunity, and action without insight is in many ways movement but not progress. So we're looking for progress through this insight that they've gained through the program. The second thing and last thing I'd like to say is we can't do at Springboard what we do without support. In this case, acknowledge the EPIT team, but also the other funders, some of whom may be on the call, but Simplicity and TEC, RATA, we appreciate what you do. But for all of you, this small project's made a difference to 17,500 learners. In the next 3 years, when kids leave at the end of year 13 and Brink come in at the start, this project could make a difference to the lives of 30,000 learners in the next 3 years. So for Hilary and I, it's been a privilege, it's been a pleasure, and we just thank you all, careers whānau across the motu, for the work you do every day, because put simply, it makes a difference, and you're helping young people thrive and fly. So all power to you. Kia ora.
That's awesome. Thank you both so very much, Hilary and Chris from Springboard Trust. It's been awesome working with you both on a career-focused, career-specific program and initiative, and it's been an absolute privilege for me. Thank you to whānau iwi hapu for joining this afternoon. We're running very well on time, so that makes it even better. And I would like to reiterate too about the program that this was a program that has drawn funding from government and from philanthropic funding. So it's quite unique, which is what careers is. We're in a unique position, and the more people who know that, the better. So thank you everyone out there, and thank you Nish behind the scenes too. I'm going to finish with a karakia, and then we will conclude for this afternoon. Kia inoi tātou. Kia tātou katoa, te aiō, te aroha, ni te marutau, ti hei mauri ora. Thank you everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Mauri ora.